Hi, everybody. Welcome to the QB School. I'm JT O'Sullivan. Today, we're talking NFL free agency. What's it like to be an NFL free agent? Obviously, a privilege to be in the league, but what's the real experience like? We're going to take you behind the scenes. Let's dive into it. Welcome to the QB School. All right, if you dig this kind of content and you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, especially get the notifications when we go live, when we put out new content. I really appreciate the support for the channel. In addition, think about signing up for the memberships by joining. You get also the badge, changes color every month. You get the emojis when we're in the live stream, all sorts of fun stuff, different ways to support the channel. I really appreciate the support. Let's dive into that free agency. All right, free agency time. Everybody's excited. We're going to get a new quarterback for our organization, all sorts of good stuff, but what's it really like? For me, it's a bunch of mixed of emotions, to say the easiest way to do it. I think that there are obviously different tiers of NFL free agents, and what I mean by that is when I was basically a long-time journeyman career backup, I never necessarily experienced the top tier free agency by any means, and so those are guys that I think of as essentially star power players. So you're thinking Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Dak, kind of elite guys that are going to have the capacity to get paid premium dollar. So never anywhere close to that. So that's the top tier. Then the next tier are guys who have earned the opportunity to play, in my opinion. So they're looking for places to play. And so there are only 32 organizations. Many of them have entrenched starters. There are very few open jobs. So if you're that kind of second tier guy where you've earned the opportunity either with the organization you're with and you think you deserve to be paid premium dollar, or you're looking for that opportunity where you're a guy who's been a backup for a while, maybe got a chance to play a few weeks and splashed and did a really nice job. I think like Teddy Bridgewater, that type, someone who's on the up as far as their stock. So I think Ryan Tannehill at the top of that pack for this year, those type of guys. Then there's this like tier 2B, which are guys that are probably on the decline or potentially decline. Let's air quote that, potentially decline, or you kind of know what they are. Starters that probably think they deserve a lot of money, and for whatever reason, the organization they're with doesn't agree with them, or they think they can go get something better somewhere else. I'm thinking guys like Phillip Rivers, Jameis Winston, and I put those two together, understanding that there's not a lot of similarities as far as their body of work, but different ways that are on that kind of type 2B type track for me, for what I think of star, that second level, a guy who wants to play, absolutely is not going to sign to be a backup, has earned the opportunity to play. So that kind of second tier star type player. And so from there, I never got anywhere close to those levels. From there, you're looking at free agents who are backups, are core critical guys that have proven they can play, that have a handful of probably starts underneath their belts, that know offenses, have that veteran presence. Bunch of different guys fall into this category, and that's kind of that third tier for me. And so I was in that tier maybe one time, and what I mean by that tier is you're not going to get paid minimum. You're going to have opportunities a few different places, whether it's at the place that you're at right now, or you think you can get more money somewhere else. There will be some sort of courting for, they think they can upgrade their backup position. And so happens every year at just about every organization. They think that they can upgrade their backups. So you look at the dollar amount, change in organizations, that type of second tier career backup, maybe a guy who's been on the practice squad and been on the bottom of a roster that looks like, the backup is entrenched, maybe got to go somewhere else to earn that opportunity to be one snap away. And so that's really that third tier, that kind of backup tier. And it's a very important, you're talking about a career backup essentially here. It's hard to crack that shell, and when you do, you don't want to give it up because, again, there's really only at this point 64 jobs. You're talking starter, backup. You're that kind of percentage for the world for what you're being asked to do. If there are openings and you think you can get paid somewhere else, that's kind of that world. And so, star, kind of 2A and 2B, that backup tier. And now we're talking the last tier is kind of that bottom of the roster tier. You're a practice squad guy. You've run out your rookie deal, haven't won the backup spot somewhere. You got cut last year. That bottom of the roster, you're looking for a spot. You'll take anything. You don't want to get retired from the league. You don't want to get, told no by every single organization. And so that's that fourth tier. And if I was being honest with most people, that's where I was most of the time. And that's where most professional quarterbacks are. There just aren't that many opportunities. And so as you kind of claw to fight and craft out a career, you're going to be in that bottom tier, the vast majority of these free agent opportunities. And so when everybody's celebrating these franchise tags and tenders and all these different things about guys making massive amounts of money that they all deserve, the vast majority of the population is at the bottom with that kind of, looking for an opportunity, really looking for an opportunity. And so when you get to that kind of tier, you're looking for anything. I think if you have multiple opportunities, meaning someone's going to, wants to sign you to the minimum, another place wants to sign you to the minimum, you're going to start looking for best opportunities to play. And that kind of looks at, who's entrenched as the starter, what's the backup situation look like? Are there competitions anywhere in there? Because if there are open competitions for the starting spot, they probably have 2 or 3 guys that they really like. If there's an entrenched starter, maybe there's an opportunity for a backup. And the problem with this is all this happens before the draft, right? So you might sign on as kind of that bottom tier guy, that 4th or 3rd guy on a roster. Well, then they go out and draft somebody in the mid rounds, or they draft someone at all. That person they are now invested in with some sort of signing bonus. They're going to give that person an opportunity. And so you don't really get the full picture until well after the draft. And so there's this kind of ambiguity, uncertainty kind of wrapped up in this experience. And so I think it's really important and fun to talk about the top tier guys, the star power. That's why, the league is as popular as it is, oftentimes because of these star quarterbacks. And then if you're talking about your organization and winning and potentially moving into a championship trajectory, are there guys, I think first one that comes to my mind is like Peyton Manning, tail end of his career, can go somewhere else and make a significant difference. I think Phillips got that opportunity. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Jameis Winston. Those type of secondary tier, Ryan Tannehill, what he did this year. Those type of opportunities are interesting from a fan perspective, and it's definitely interesting if it is tethered to your organization. But you're talking about less than 10 guys there. There are way more free agents than that, and they're all at the bottom end. And so when you get to that bottom end, and that's where my life was for essentially 10 years. And so for me, it really comes down to, that was just the norm, the space that you lived in, because this is what you wanted to do. Now, it wasn't always fun by any means. It's never fun to get cut and be looking for a job, or fired looking for a job. But there is an element of understanding that's part of the gig, right? Like, you signed up for this, it's not, guaranteed money. All these things, the kind of volatility of the industry is real. And so for me, I don't know if I was comfortable with it. I just always understood it and I kind of went into it with my eyes wide open and knew, and I probably had more experience getting cut than most people. So you get not used to it, but you understand, the highs and the lows, the peaks and the valleys of being able to know that there's, you're in it to win it. You're going to fight for another opportunity, and you're going to give your absolute best. And, let's see where the chips fall where they may. And hopefully you win more than you lose, and you get more jobs than you lose. And so those type of things. But for me, it was one of those things where I never really had the lexicon to talk about it when I was in it. I was just in it. It was just my world. That was my normal. I knew, I might get cut, might have to move another place, might have to get another contract at another place. There's a coach over in this organization that I know the system. I can go over there and play. Is that the best opportunity? All those things every year. So it becomes your normal, and you're a little bit more used to dealing with it. Well, then I go back to school, and for the people who follow this channel know that, I went back to school for a doctorate in leadership studies, and I love that world of influence and all those things, and it's fun for me to tether it to sports and football. And I remember going back to school, learning about one of the theories, this VUCA theory, which is essentially just an acronym, right? VUCA. And so this idea, and I'm sure that there are experts probably watching this that will be able to tell the story better than I can, but I'll give you the snapshot of it. And it's really comes from basically the Cold War, the end of the Cold War, all of a sudden having new ways to explain complex problems. And so this idea of understanding volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity when I started going over this, doing all the reading, I was like, oh my God, this is my space I lived in for 10 years. Now it's applied to a different sector with sports and NFL free agency, but it was VUCA, right? Everything is volatile. You're getting fired. The money's extreme. You're not making any money. You're on the practice squad. You're looking for work. You need an agent. You're moving. Everybody knows you're out of work. Those type of job things. It's posted in the paper. It's on the ticker. Like those type of things. It's volatile. It just is. Uncertainty. Absolutely. You don't know where your next job's going to be if you're on that bottom rung. You're looking for an opportunity. You're fighting, clawing. You might have to go to a different league. You're going to go to the CFL. You're going to go to the XFL. You're going to go, what are you going to do next? Do you still want to keep playing? All those things. And then the complexity, we'll say it's medium complex. I'm not willing to go and say that it's very complex, but there is some complex movements, meaning that it's not cookie cutter. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. So if you're on a bottom tier guy and you're thinking, I might get an opportunity to compete for a backup spot and free agency is around the corner, and then they sign someone at the first 30 minutes of free agency that's going to probably be the two, well, then that changes it. And so there is this layer of complexity about looking for the best deal, and not wasting your time on where exactly you could end up when, you don't know what they're dealing and what their other opportunities are, what they're thinking organization wise. And that person might say yes, or that person might say no, or go to a different organization. So there are lots of moving parts that just aren't under your control. And then finally, the ambiguity of it, again, just the uncertainty of it, the blurriness of it. You don't necessarily know. There are so many things that are out of your control. And really the only way you can make peace with it is to try your absolute hardest, sell out, prepare yourself as much as you possibly can, work as hard as you possibly can, and let the chips fall where they may and be at peace with that. And that's just where I was for essentially a dozen years. And so for me, it's this VUCA mentality that is really transferable beyond, obviously free agency in this video, but the application of different theories and how you influence or how you like to be influenced or how you practice leadership. I love this idea. It's really simple understanding, taking a really complex thing from, the American military. Of course, they were going to go, acronym on us, but it makes sense. And it really describes the free agency experience, both for me and when I look at the vast majority of guys going through it. So when you see there and, next time you're watching SportsCenter and you get hit with a Dak contract or Brady or Breeze or what's going to happen with Jameis Winston or Phillip, understand that there are also probably 75 other guys that are at the absolute bottom of that thing going through this VUCA experience and hopefully being better off for it and getting better every time you go through it. Not feeling sorry for them because they still get to live out their dream, but it's not quite that top dollar free agency money. It's a little bit muddier. It's a little bit blurrier. There's a lot of uncertainty and all those things. That's what I think about when we get into the free agency time. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I appreciate it. See you next time.